right, hey everybody.
Hello.
We're here. If you can hear us and see us, please let us know in the chat box as soon as you can, and we'll give it a few minutes and let everybody kind of get into the old chat box.
I gotta get into the chat box first. Sorry.
I'm gotta get in the chat box first.
Oops.
Get off Facebook.
That's you, not me on Facebook. What are we again? What's the name of our channel? Big Bear Homestead. That's it. There it is. Okay. What are we again? What's the name of our channel? Oh, I gotta mute it. I always forget that part.
Yep. Okay. So how many people we got in here?
Nobody.
Oh man.
Or maybe I'm just not. 2 people.
2 people. So who's in here with us?
I don't know yet. I'm assuming 1 is me. 3.
3.
Uh-oh.
Oh, here they come.
Climbing.
Here they come. Hey, everybody.
Oh. I wasn't scrolled all the way up. Okay, so go for green.
Hey, go for green.
And
what's up?
Southwind Technicals here.
Hey, Southwind. Hey, go for green. I gotta send you a message. I need to talk to you.
And let's see, Jen from South Dakota. Hi, Jen.
Hi, Jen.
And let's see, I don't know who NMS 886 is from West Virginia.
Hey, West Virginia 886.
There's Karen. Karen's here. US Kiwi. USA
Hey,
Kiwi.
Karen.
And Buck Run Homestead.
Yo, Karen, how's the farm crib?
And Buck Run Homestead in Ohio.
Okay, cool.
So we got like 9 people. They'll all start coming in soon.
They'll all start coming in.
Yeah.
Okay, everybody, we're kind of going to go ahead and we're going to get the introductions and everything going on. Y'all know who me and Mama are, but I want to introduce.
Wait. Let me. You got a delay. So Go for Green wants to know if he's in trouble. So
no, you're not in trouble. No, you're not yet. Well, maybe. No, you're not in trouble.
And Karen says he's bragging. He's talking all about his farm cred.
He got farm cred.
Yeah.
Brian got farm cred.
Okay, so anyway.
Okay, anyway. I want to introduce Brett Schweiger from I can never say your last name and then say the name of your
Are you even saying his name right?
I think so. Am I saying it?
Schweiger?
Schweiger. Brett Schweiger from Shearing Solutions.
There you go.
You couldn't have come up with a better name, bro.
Well, yeah.
Anyway, Brett is the guy who comes up and he shears our merino sheep for us every year. We met Brett about 6 years ago now?
Has it been?
About
5, 6, somewhere around there. Yeah.
Through a hobby farmers association down in Augusta, Georgia. And when we came to our forever homestead, we kind of brought Brett with us at least once a year.
He's very kind. He makes the trip every year to come. He makes the
trip.
And doesn't make us pay out the nose for it.
That's right.
And we appreciate that.
And he gave an awesome class for that Hobby Farmers Association down in Augusta, which is no longer in existence.
Oh, yeah, they closed up shop about 4 years ago, I think. 3 or 4 years ago.
Not too long after we left.
Yeah.
But anyway, I digress.
And he gave an awesome class, so I thought, why not have him come up and kind of do that class for us. So we're going to let Brett talk a little sheep. We're going to ask him some questions. If you guys got any questions about sheep, alpacas, llamas,
anything with fiber,
goats,
just about anything, because he does chickens and
well, that's true too.
Yeah, so he's
I'm all knowledgeable.
We're rifling now too.
Okay, we're gonna
and I got him trapping, so he's trapping now with his tube.
That's it.
And what else are you doing now? You clean skulls, trap, shear sheep.
A little bit of eBay and
Any single ladies?
Farm life.
you trying to pin him out here on TV? That's not good. Anyway, so.
So am I still okay? So, all right. So what got you into shearing sheep?
Well, I used to raise, I raised poultry and goats, and I bought some sheep, and they need sheared, and I was looking around trying to find a shearer here in the southeast, and I couldn't find anybody. And the one guy I did find wanted to charge an arm and leg to come down and shear the 3 sheep I had, and it would have cost more than what I actually paid for the sheep to have them sheared that year.
Wow.
And so I took, I didn't know what I was doing, of course, so I took scissors and took big old chunks out of them, and they looked like little golf balls full of divots. And that fall, right after I went online and was looking for shearing schools, and there's not too many in the U.S. And so I sent an application to one of them, and I went that spring to shearing school in Washington State.
Wow.
And so I flew there. It's a week-long crash course. I got there spent the night, but Monday morning showed at the school. We introduced ourselves to each other, and went out to the shearing shed, and the head instructor grabbed one sheep, sheared it, and said, grab the clippers and get to work. So 9 o'clock that morning, we were shearing sheep, and did 450 sheep in 5 days. And they also threw in a few alpacas to show us how that was done. And went home. I put some ads on Craigslist while I was flying home, and when I got home, I already had calls. And so I've been shearing I sheared 6 states here in the southeast, and I've been doing this for 6 years. This is my 6th year.
6 years. Now, what 6 states do you travel to?
I travel Florida, Georgia, Alabama, Tennessee, South Carolina, and North Carolina. I've been called to other states, and I've gone up to Indiana.
You in Alabama too, right?
What's that?
Didn't you guys go to Alabama?
That's what I said, Alabama.
He did say
Oh,
Alabama.
you did say Alabama?
Yeah. But I've gone up to Indiana. I did I traded sheep for my services up there because it was something I needed. But I've traveled quite a bit, a lot of miles. I've gone through a couple vehicles in the 6 years, and I shear alpacas, llamas, Angora goats, sheep, of course, is about what I mainly shear, and then the occasional Pyrenees dog, which I don't recommend doing because their coat is designed for when it's hot. They can actually handle it pretty well, but it's just some people think that they're overheating and they want it off, and so I do it sometimes, but I explain it to them that they don't really need it, and I charge them out the nose to do it if they want me to. So, but I do that as well. I also do hoof trimming as a service. I also do banding and castrating for sheep and stuff. I charge, I think, way more than it should be because farmers should know how to do it themselves already. But the bands bands are like a penny a piece.
Yeah,
so I charge $2 to do it a piece, just because they should know how to do it themselves. Same with hoof trimming, I charge quite a bit
But I'll say from my perspective, and we've seen this in our channel and dealing with other people, sometimes you have the wife might be more active than the husband, and maybe the husband's at work, and maybe the woman's not going to really be comfortable doing that.
Yeah.
So even $2 to tell me you could do it for $2, I'd hand you the $2.
Yeah.
So
and
you don't make it so exorbitant that it's not something that somebody will do. But I mean, I can understand the breakdown of it being a lot more than what it's worth, but to some people that service is still worth that $2.
Well, and that's what I do, because I go to farms, and if I'm shearing and they want me to do hooves, I mean, a lot of farms when it comes to sheep, This is a once a year deal where they might be in the back pasture and they're not handled except for the once a year I come to shear. So they're willing to pay me to do any extra services to do like hoof trimming and stuff. Now, one of the things I don't do is medication or shots. Since I'm not a licensed vet or anything, I can get in trouble if something happened to your animal, either overdosing or doing it in the wrong location. So I'm willing to hold an animal, and but other than that,
well, you don't really use a lot of that with your own animals, though, do you? You use a lot of DE and essential oils and
well,
stuff like that, right?
Yeah, there's a lot of ways you can actually get away with, so you don't have to do parasites. There's pasture rotation, how you feed your animals, and essential oils, natural remedies. There's quite a few things where you don't. There's quite a few breeds that are naturally parasite resistant, and so all these things put together, you don't ever have to worm them if you do things correctly.
Now, in this career field that you're in with the sheep shearing, is it a rewarding career field? We have a lot of our viewers have children, and just like my son, they're all starting to get up there in age, and some of them want to stay with the homesteading. Is this a type of a career that you would recommend for a 17, 18, 19-year-old kid that's been homeschooled and wants to get out, get his feet wet into the world, but he kind of wants to stay active in the homesteading scene?
Absolutely. There is a huge decline in sheep shearers. A lot of the old guys are retiring, and there's not enough young people that are willing to work hard enough. And so that's why I shear 6 states. As far as I know, that there's only 3 of us that shear in the 6 states that I shear in, and we're all in the position where we can turn down clients if we don't like, any aspect. And so we're not hurting for jobs. And it's if you want to travel and see a lot of farms and learn a lot of cool things and see a lot of good country, it's a great job. And a lot of the really good shearers actually shear in other countries as well. Our winter it's summertime in Australia, so guys fly down to Australia and New Zealand to shear, and conversely, shearers in Australia, their winter, it's our summer, and so they go out west and shear. So it's a year-round job if you want it to be that way. Or what I do is I shear 6-7 months out of the year, and then now I'm going to start getting into trapping in the winter. But before, I would just pick up an odd job or just relax and chill out for 5 months. So
when it comes to the aspect, like I was telling you before we started the stream, 90% of our audience, they were preppers that have, for lack of a better term, evolved into homesteading. Okay. For someone who has graduated in the homesteading, is beginning homesteading, and they've got their garden under control, they got their chickens and their rabbits and stuff, but they want to get into sheep. Is there a specific breed with that mentality in mind, knowing that most of us that have come that way, that the animal that's coming on the property is going to be some type of a dual purpose breed? Is there one specific breed of sheep that you would recommend over the others, and why?
Well, that's actually a very hard question. First off, sheep outproduce goats and cattle for your acreage. If you're doing 100% grass-based farming, sheep will outproduce them hands down. Now, if it's like a semi-wooded thing, then maybe goats might outproduce. But if you're primarily a good grass, sheep are outbeat everybody. So then you want to look into sheep can be tri-purpose, meat, milk, and fiber. There are quite a few dairy breeds of sheep. Sheep is actually the only milk that can be frozen and will not separate. So you can freeze milk, and when you thaw it out, it is still milk and not just gloop and some liquid. So that's actually a really cool thing. So commercial dairies, they freeze up all their stuff till they come to a good quantity, and then they send it out. So that's a really cool aspect. So if you have one milk sheep, you can actually freeze up, and then once they dry out, you can still have some to keep you going through their dry spell. So it actually all depends on what you want to do. There's also hair sheep. Hair sheep shed, and so they don't need to be sheared. But then it's a useless product. It's a really coarse. If you're familiar with like pig hairs or like bristles, it's similar to that. It's not good for anything really. You might be able to use it for insulation. Is the only thing I've ever heard it used for, or maybe for your chicken coops or something. What they do is they'll rub on a fence line and it'll all fall off in the summer. And so now there are some breeds that instead of being sheared, it's called ruing, which is you can actually comb it off. And there's a couple of cool breeds that do that. So it really depends on your purpose. If you want a meat breed that you want to milk and have some fiber for a kind of operation that you guys do, I would recommend Icelandics or possibly Shetlands. Shetlands are a lot smaller. They're around like the 50-60 pound range. So the carcass isn't that big if you're to butcher one, but they you can comb them out. They will rue. They can rue, or you can shear them. Either way is fine, and they have a good fiber.
I mean, what is rue?
Ruing is where they'll actually, their fleece will in the summertime kind of cut off, and you can actually comb off the wool instead of it being sheared. It all doesn't come off in one nice piece. You're gonna have like it'll clump off at certain stages, but it's still spinnable, still usable for yarn and such. So you can either shear it and it'll come nice and pretty, or you can do it over a period of time if you don't have a shearer available. So Icelandics are a lot larger. They're around the 110 pound range. In Iceland, they milk them, and so they're a good meat, milk, fiber. They're fast growing, the lambs are. So those two breeds are really good tri-purpose. If there's another thing with sheep, there's some sheep that are only seasonal breeders, where they only have a 2-month breeding season, and if you miss it, you have to wait till next year. It's normally in the fall around August, September, or September, October, depending on the breed. There are aseasonal breeds of sheep, which are year-round breeders, and they come into heat every 21 days year-round. Jason's Merinos are aseasonal, so they can breed year-round. Now,
okay, let me cut you off because I don't want to be rude and interrupt. But okay, so one of the things that was asked, Sandra, I did not forget your question. She asked, I think she came in a little late, asking about how you learned to trade. Cliff Notes version was he knew there was a need for it, signed up for a school, went for a week, learned really quick.
What school did you go to?
It's Washington State University's shearing school. I went the first year. I came back the second year to get faster and better, and they were down on instructors that year, and so I was an assistant instructor, and in the evenings the instructors helped me out to improve my technique and my time, but during the day I helped the other students.
Well, there's an interesting discussion going back and forth, and I'd be interested to hear your take on this since you have sheep too. There's a discussion going back and forth on whether the wool has any value right now. Maybe in certain areas, maybe it does and maybe it doesn't, but We have friends that are in, or them is
What,
where are
Doug
Doug and Stacy?
Are
Missouri?
they here?
Yes.
Hey, Doug and Stacy.
And because he's saying that sometimes people overthink stuff because the wool is just where he's at, the wool is worthless. He can't give it away. And so he recommends the hair sheep because they're low maintenance, the meat's good, and he doesn't have to mess with them. He can just harvest them when he needs to harvest them. Where other people like Grandpa's Farm, which is all the way up in Alaska, says wool is worthless. That doesn't register to him because.
Well,
there's so what's the take on
share that website or that Facebook group. Doug, listen to this thing because him and I were talking about this earlier today. When I was showing him around the homestead and when we were doing some trapping stuff, because I was sharing that what you told me when we talked on the phone, and go ahead, you tell me.
Well, there's two things. Commercially, wool. There's different ways you market wool. First off, if you're trying to sell it commercially, a white-faced white sheep, which is basically an entirely white sheep, is right now going for about $2 a pound. So depending on the cost of your shearer and other factors, you're probably going to break even. Maybe make a few bucks depending on your breed and how much poundage they produce. A black-faced white sheep, which is just that. Some breeds are white with a black head. Their wool sells for a little bit less because people the black fibers can get intermingled and it's harder to dye that wool commercially. So that wool is even less. It's like around $1.50 a pound or whatnot. Where the actual value for wool is coming in at is for hand spinners.
Your mom, even in YouTube, is interrupting you. Wool prices have never been higher. If you sell to spinners, you get way more money for it.
And that's
Good job, Pam.
That's how I was coming to.
Hi, Mom.
Wool prices for hand spinners is really, really, really high right now. And it doesn't even really matter what breed you have. You can have a commercial breed or a specialized breed. It really doesn't matter. As long as it's priced accordingly, it sells very well. And there's quite a few Facebook groups where they'll put you in contact with as many hand spinners as you can handle. I shear in 6 states, and I get a lot of free fleeces, and I sell out pretty much every year. And I'm talking like well over 100 fleeces a year of just free fleeces, and I sell them to hand spinners. And so there's definitely a huge market for it. You can go to every state has multiple fiber festivals where you could sell them at or get in contact with people. There are a lot of spinning guilds and groups in every major city and large town. So there's lots of avenues. You just have to put a little bit more effort into finding them is all. Whereas a commercial aspect, you can just bag it all in one bag and drop it off, and they'll just cut you a small check.
Now, what was the name of that Facebook group that you told me about today?
There is a very young Facebook group. It's only been open for a week now that I'm a part of. It's called Dirty Fleeces Done Dirt Cheap. It's a play on an AC/DC song.
Right.
And if yours are very dirty or have a lot of hay, or what we call vegetable matter, VM, they sell very fast on this site. But of course, the prices are, I wouldn't say low, they're lower than what they could be if they were clean. Is the thing. Fleeces right now for hand spinners are going anywhere from $3 or $4 a pound on up to $20 a pound, depending on breed. So, and they're taking every breed that they can get their hands on. So,
was there a question?
Okay, so the first thing is, okay, let me go back up a little bit because there's been a lot of discussion here.
Uh-oh.
Grandpa's Farm wants to know, what are your thoughts about fiber goats like Angora versus sheep?
All right. First off, I personally don't like Angora goats as a shearer, not as a farmer, but as a shearer, simply because the way you shear sheep and Angora goats are very sure-footed, and so they fight a lot more during the shearing process. And their fiber, when you shear a sheep, it comes off in one nice. It should come off in one nice piece, similar to like a pelt or like a bearskin rug. It comes off in one piece, whereas Angora goats come off in chunks just because their fibers don't interlock. So, Angora goats are just a little bit more pain. Takes a little bit more time to deal with. Production-wise, they're pretty good. They need pure Angoras. You need to shear them normally twice a year, depending on where you live. Unless you're very far north, you're gonna probably want to shear them twice a year because they grow about an inch a month. So at an inch a month, you got a 6-inch staple length in 6 months, and that's quite a lot of poundage, and it's pretty hot. So you need to shear them twice a year.
Grandpa's Farm said he agrees that goats are a PIA, pain in the booty, but I do like the fiber.
Yeah.
So.
Quick reminder with the questions, because there's a lot of stuff going on in the chat box. Question all caps, please.
They are.
Okay.
You don't need to tell them all that.
I didn't say it in the beginning. I forgot to say it in the beginning. Sorry.
We've got some pretty well-educated people in here. They know the rules.
Okay.
Except for James. James is typing in all caps so that I can determine whether it's him or his mom. But I got everybody else. So can everybody hear us better now? I turned the AC unit off so it's not as loud. So can I just kind of get a couple thumbs up to let us know that you can hear us a little bit better? That would be nice.
Any other questions?
Just your mom complaining that she couldn't see or hear you, so we're trying to fix on that a little bit.
Well,
Put your glasses on, Mom.
Well, that's what she said. She said it is why. Well, I know what it is. It's because we had to pull the camera away a little bit further so we could. And I've already told everybody that. So okay, everybody can hear much better. So just.
Sorry about that.
We'll deal with being a little bit warmer.
Well, I mean, we got it good and cool in here.
Yeah,
We should be good to go for.
Okay,
45
wonderful.
minutes.
30 minutes.
Whatever.
Everybody can hear us good, so go ahead.
Outstanding.
So back to the question about breeds. I really, this is a very, I get asked this question a whole lot, and I don't try and hem and haw. I'm perfectly fine finding working with people to find a breed that they're happy with. There's just a lot of factors, like horns or no horns. If you're inch of fiber, what colors, what length, whatever. It also depends on where you live for like parasite control and or just a lot of factors. There's breeds that have litters. There's a couple breeds that have most sheep. Their very first time they'll have a single, and after that, twins or triplets is the norm. If you take care of them correctly, that's what their breed normally does. There are the breeds that have litters. They'll actually have 5, 6, 7 babies at a time, and triplets are considered bad for these breeds when they have triplets after their first pregnancy, and so it really just depends on what you're interested. If you're trying to market lambs for sale. You have to look at what you're trying to market to. If it's ethnic market versus grocery stores, or if you're just trying to put meat on your own table, then these are all factors you have to consider. One thing I always tell people is horns aren't a problem like most people think. It's a bit of a misnomer. Or not misnomer, but misconception with horns. Horns, first off, are a built-in AC unit for sheep, goats, cattle, what have you. the blood flows from the skull into the horn, and it's on that just under the surface of the horn, and it flows to the tip, and then goes back to the skull. But since it's close to the surface, it cools off. So when it goes to the tip and back in, it's cooler than when it came into the horn. So it's actually a built-in AC unit, and the more horn they have, the cooler it is when it goes back into their skull. So when you're down south, it actually keeps the animals cooler and more alive. And another factor is people think about when they get hit. Well, there's two things for that. First off, the horns are off to the side, and when they hit you, it's to their forehead. And you can have a sheep with horns or without horns, and a 200-pound sheep, a 200-pound ram with horns will hit you with the exact same amount of force as a 200-pound sheep without horns, because they both have a forehead and they both have the same mass, and so it's not a problem. Same with cattle or goats. If you've ever seen videos, National Geographic or whatever, see rams hitting each other, it's always just forehead to forehead, and so that shouldn't be a major factor. So I'm pro horns. As a shearer, it's another handhold. If you're trying to catch sheep, it's another handhold. I see more pros than cons. The only con I ever see is when they're young. You might run the risk of them getting caught in a fence, but this is very, very rare, and it's not much of a problem.
Well, a really good comparison. Grandpa's Farm said the horn acts like a radiator. I mean, that kind of doesn't that kind of make? I mean, the water goes back through to the
water and the radiator goes.
Yeah,
cools,
so that's
pretty
cool.
Cools the engine, yeah.
So okay, so
our ram before he died, he must have been just like, dude.
Yeah.
He must have been very chill because he had almost 2 full.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he was. Yeah. And so, yeah, horns tend to get stuck in fences a lot. Now, depending on your fencing, I would guess that could be an issue.
It really depends on your fencing, and most field fencing, like what you see where it's the really small at the bottom and it works its way larger at the top, field fencing, it's not... goats, their horns curl backwards, and actually goat horns it's kind of like a fish hook when they put their head through. It's hard to get their head back out because the way the horns grow straight backwards. That's what the problem is. Sheep, they curl, and so it's actually it's rare for them to get their horns stuck. It really, really is. And the more problem I see when people get stuck is if you have barbed wire fencing with wool sheep, because the wool gets stuck in the barbed wire. And that's actually more, or viney growth that has lots of thorns, briars and bushes. Those will actually get.
Sherry's picking on me because I said radiator instead of radiator.
Yeah.
Oh.
I didn't want to say anything, but that's fine.
So if you had to pick, what is your? Or let me rephrase. Back up. What's your favorite breed?
All right. Production, from a production standpoint, I like either Merinos or Polypay sheep or Finns. All of them are high production, lots of lambs, good fiber. 1 out of the 3 has horns. Most Merinos have horns, but all of them are fine wool. Finns have a lot of babies. They're one of the litters. Triplets, quads, quinces. Polypays will normally have triplets, and Merinos are singles or twins. But you can breed them any time of year, and so that's a really good plus. Now, as a shearer, there's quite a few what I prefer would be a sheep breed that has no face or neck wool and no leg wool, because it or an annual belly wolf is because those are all wools that are get thrown away, discarded because it's not good quality. So it's a waste of my time. So like something like a blue-faced Leicester or a one of the Cheviot breeds are really good for a shearer, and I give priority to people that have those breeds. If they want them done, I try to get them done just because they're easier for me to shear.
Well, that belly wool and face wool is not worthless to you anymore now that you're trapping.
Yeah, now I'm trapping, but it's still, it's not high value. And for most farmers, they're going to throw it away. So it's kind of a bad feeling when you see your work thrown away.
Yeah.
So
I can imagine.
So that's one of those things. I recommend for most of you, since you're hobby farmers, to some degree,
none
homesteaders.
of these people are hobby farmers. That's a bad word in this community.
Homesteaders. I would not do baby doll sheep. They're more pain. A lot of people think they're cute, but they have a whole lot of problems, and I don't like sharing them at all. So if you live in the southeast, don't bother calling me. Pretty much. They have a lot of problems. For what you guys want to do, their wool is not worth much at all because it only grows about an inch. They're slow growing and they have a lot of fat. If they look at food, they get fat, almost literally. If they look at food, they will get fat. They're very short and slow growing and a lot of problems. What really keeps the breed going right now is their cheap factor for pets and stuff, and they command a really high price. Registered stock is like $500 or $600 for lambs, but other than that, any other breed really you guys can they'll for the most part work. You're probably not going to want really large breeds. That some sheep get 250, 300 pounds, and those might not work for what most of you want to do. So you're looking at the small to medium range sheep.
Which sheep would you consider to be the one with the least amount of maintenance? Low maintenance kind of sheep that a homesteader can put out in his pasture. It can survive on the grass, very low parasites, really don't have to put hands on, and you can still put the meat on the table and it tastes good.
All right, for those qualifications, Katahdins, which is a hair sheep, are probably one of the better ones. Wiltshire horns, if you don't care about if horns are okay, Wiltshire horns are heavier than Katahdins. They're also a shedding sheep, but they thrive on very marginal land or poor quality land. So very low maintenance, really good with parasites. They're from England, but they're a bit heavier. They're like 150 pound ewes, 200 some pound rams. So they're actually one of the breeds that created the Katahdin. So they actually gave the Katahdin the size that they do have. So just think of a Katahdin, but a little bit heavier and with some horns. But they're a lot more thriftier than Katahdins. If you're wanting a wool sheep it's an easy keeper. There's a ton of breeds, but I really think the Icelandic would fit for most of you. Like I said, it's a tri-purpose. I said that earlier. But what's really cool about Icelandics is they have a matriarchal system, and they're from Iceland. And what they did is the Vikings just dropped them off, and they lived on an island, and they survived. And the mothers, they actually, there's always one female in the flock, and everyone listens to her. Like she'll stomp her hoof, and if there's a predator, and everybody will pay attention to her, and she will lead them to safety. If there's in Iceland, when there's weather problems, because they don't really have predators. It's weather conditions like snowstorms and stuff. She leads them to safety. So that's a really cool factor for the Icelandics, and she's also very aggressive. So there's a predator, she will do her best to protect the flock, in addition to any rams you might have.
Well, why didn't the Vikings want them? Why did they
No,
drop
the
them off?
Vikings dropped them off as a food source.
I don't know if I want a sheep, a Viking.
And Iceland to this day, they're still there, and they roam the island, no fences, and they herd them once a year to shear them, and then to milk them, and then they turn them loose. And there is no barns for these sheep. They survive basically off these mothers that lead them to safety and show them where the food's at, how to survive through the winters. They're very harsh winters, and they lead them to where all the good food is in the winter and everything. So that's a really good breed. I would recommend, because they're very easy keepers and they can take care of themselves.
Okay, 2 questions. Do you ever have a limit to? Do you ever limit the number you shear in a day?
No. I've only ever done 80 sheep most in a day. That's mainly because of in the southeast, it's a lot of small farms, and so the unpacking, shearing, repacking, travel to the next farm eats up a lot of my time. And a lot of these farms have, anywhere from 10 to 20 is about the range for most of the farms. So that's the main problem with me where I'm at. Out west, guys are shearing 200 and 300 sheep a day. Wow. And that's an average. And they're shearing 6 days a week, 7 days a week. Main thing for shearers, what hurts us is rain. We can't shear them when they're wet. Because that rain, it's like their wool is like a sponge, and it soaks that all up, and it makes it very heavy. So when you're shearing, that heavy wool is pulling at the skin, and it causes us to cut them up very, very bad. And so we normally need them dry. So that's a one thing that slows us down. But normally I'm doing anywhere from sometimes 30 sheep up to 80 sheep. It really just depends on scheduling, really. How many are in a close location where I can hit them all up is the main
Who was that question from?
That was from... Who was that from? That was from Karen. And then Brad, of course, wanted to know if you ever had a sheep with dreadlocks.
Yeah, actually I own a couple. Like Wensleydales. There's a few breeds that are long wools. They need to be sheared twice a year, and they actually look like dreadlocks.
That's pretty cool.
The majority of sheep, their fibers interlock, whereas the long wools, they grow. It forms these dreadlocks is what you see, and so they're not interlocking as an entire fleece, but in small ringlets.
So when you shear those, are you playing Bob Marley music?
You missed the conversation. The whole thing has been, let me just read it to you because it's funny. Because David Sharrow said, would those be Jamaican sheep? And of course Brad said, yeah, man. And then Sherry joined in. And then Sherry's daughter Sarah said, Jamaican me sheepy. And so they've been just joking back and forth. And Doug is still saying, Katahdin hair sheep. He's still, and different people have different uses.
Oh, yeah.
And when you have a lot going on, like in their situation,
Yeah, they're completely
off grid.
Yeah.
So having to schedule, and if they're going to raise animals, they want several of them so that they can keep that sustainable. And I can imagine with that much going on it wouldn't be as...
Yeah,
and they're very low parasitic. They don't get parasites really.
And we've thought about we're thinking about
if you're looking at hair sheep, there's most of your hair sheep are from most of them originate from the countries from the equator where it's hot. Okay, some of them are from Africa or the Middle East. Some are from the like the Virgin Islands and parts of like South America, like the northern part of South America, like the Mexico and all. So that's where a lot of them are originating from. Your Katahdins are actually a cross between a few breeds, but they're good for parasites, and they're good. They're year-round breeders. Like I said, your Wiltshire Horns are actually from England, but they're good on parasites and all. Now, there's St. Croix, which is an island in the Virgin Islands. St. Croix sheep, they're solid white and they're hair sheep, but they're a meat and milk, so you can actually milk them. They're actually one of the top 5 milking breeds for sheep, and they're a hair sheep. Okay. So if you are looking into doing some dairy or something along that lines, and you don't want the wool, then that's like the only good producing or milk producing breed for hair sheep.
Let me interrupt you for a second. Now I've had raw cow's milk because we got it back there. We've had the raw goat's milk. Raw sheep's milk because you can tell taste difference. You can tell the taste between cow and goat. Can you tell a difference between goat and sheep, or
it's a bit sweeter. I mean, I guess it also depends on what you're feeding them and factors like that. But it's a bit sweeter, and sheep, depending on the sheep breed, they're very comparable to goat production. It's a 21-day. Most of them are like around 210-day milking cycle. Some are a little bit longer than that. I know East Frisians produce like over 1,000 pounds of milk or something, and they're from Germany and Holland, East Frisians, but it depends on what breed. That's one of the best breeds, East Frisians, for milking, and they go down from there.
Now, do they have a cream that you could separate from and be able to make butter and stuff like that?
I mean, yeah, you still can separate, but if you throw it in the freezer and you thaw it out, it doesn't automatically separate. Because you can actually separate and do. They do cheeses and they do creams with. Real feta is sheep milk. Feta cheese.
Feta.
It's
feta. It's whatever.
It's really called feta. It's Feta, but that's how you're supposed to pronounce it.
Yeah. That's goat's milk, is it not?
No, that's actually sheep milk.
Really?
Yes. So real feta is from sheep. So
I guess that's why everybody looked at me funny when I said I like feta cheese.
Well, predominantly most people say feta. I mean, feta might be the right way to say it, but just like some people say radiator instead of radiator.
Nobody oregano.
Nobody
says
oregano
or basil instead of basil. But yeah, so okay, so a couple of questions. One was Sherry asked, when you were talking about 80 sheep, how long does it normally take you to do a sheep?
All right, it's a shearing is I guess it's a skill that you get better at the more you do. So when I first started out, I was shearing a sheep in about 30 minutes. Now, depending on the breed, it's around anywhere from like 5 to 10 minutes. The world record right now is 45 seconds.
Okay.
So it really depends on how long you've been shearing and how good you got.
That's what Grandpa said.
My head instructor can shear sheep blindfolded.
Wow.
And he's that good. And so it really just depends on how long you've been at it. Most professional sheep shearers, once they're been at it for between the 5 to 10 year mark, are shearing sheep around 2 minutes. Those are the guys out west that are doing 200 head a day. And so eventually I will get to around the 2 to 3 minute mark. So it's just a overtime type thing. So
I was gonna say you sheared mine rather quickly.
Yeah, there's a lot of factors in that. One is your preferences, like how much wool they have, how much they fight. I prefer large sheep because I'm a big guy. I prefer to wrestle the 250, 300 pound sheep versus the little tiny 50-pound sheep that I have to bend completely over and get those tiny little pockets of wool. I'm also a little bit taller than the average professional shearer. The really good ones are around like 5'6", 5'7", and I'm like 5'11" or 6 foot. So and I'm a lot heavier. I'm a bigger guy, so it's a lot of things against me. But be that as it may, I'm over time. I'll get better, but I don't know if that answered that question.
I'm sorry, that
but,
just got me tickled.
I know it is.
Well, okay,
Trying
so
to be 100% truthful here. So.
all right, so there's
Mom
a
will say
couple.
something.
So I don't know if Kitty's homestead, she wasn't quite. I don't think she came in at the right time, but we were talking about Katahdins and all the other ones, and she was saying, so unless you like milk, and well, the Katahdins don't milk, right?
Not really. I mean, any of them
Okay.
you could milk, but they're not designed for it. They don't produce much, and
So,
it's only for a short limit.
Let me tell you why I'm asking is because she just said this. She's very allergic to wool, so she got excited thinking that maybe she could have some sheep if she had Katahdins.
All right. That's another problem that we've been trying to fix in the sheep associations and the American sheep industry has been trying to thing. I'm pretty sure, without knowing you, of course, I'm pretty sure you're not allergic to wool. When you go to some place and you get a wool sweater or whatever, that wool is treated with a ton of harsh chemicals, and that's what a lot of people are actually allergic to. Unless you actually go up to a sheep and are allergic to touching that sheep, when you shear and you have an actual hand spinner and they make yarn and everything, you don't have problems with that. I've worked with a lot of people. I've told that a lot of people, and I produced yarn for them to touch that wasn't with the harsh chemicals, and they didn't have problems, and they realized what that was. But they treat them with a lot of harsh chemicals, and so that's what makes them very itchy and have problems.
But if she wanted to play it safe, could she do the hair sheep instead?
Okay, well, hold
absolutely.
on. She said that she found out by holding and feeding a baby sheep.
Well, then,
So-
yeah. So then it very well could be.
Yeah. So, all right. One of the things that Grandpa said was that for the Katahdin hair, they used to use it and mix it in plaster to do for walls. So for
Yeah, I mean it's not 100% useless, but it's mainly, most people I've ever seen it for is insulation or for like bedding material for birds and stuff, nesting material, or I've seen people put it in their garden because it's great for retaining water. So if you want to put that in your
like a mulch.
in your mulch, or if you're adding it to your soil, it helps for water retention. But those few things is about the only thing it's ever. Some people have tried to cook out the lanolin for lotion, but Katahdin, the hair sheep actually don't produce much lanolin because it's mostly your wool breeds, because the lanolin is the oil that keeps the wool in the good condition it is. And so it's more a wool breed byproduct than a hair breed. So you aren't actually going to get much lanolin and stuff out of that.
So back to the question. I think we got a little bit sidetracked. Can she do a hair sheep?
I believe so. Without knowing, you'd actually want to try it. I don't see why not. You might want to just go to a hair sheep farm and ask them if you can pet their sheep or whatever.
What is so funny?
So the first thing is, I'm assuming this is James asking this. He wants to know, is there a sheep that gives milk, wool, and meat?
Oh yeah.
I think you had said some, but
East Frisians are the very best. They give you a lot of milk. They're 150-pound ewes, 250-pound, 300-pound rams. Some of the ewes get up to 200 pounds. They do have fiber, but their wool is like a good commercial grade. It still has some value, but it's not like excellent quality. But it's still a something you can sell and get a decent price for. And then their milk is, for production wise, they have the highest quantity that I know of.
okay, Sherry said thanks. Okay, so Brad, I can't believe you, man.
I knew it had to be you. I knew it had to be you, Brad.
So Brad says, wait, let me get up here because they've been going back and forth for a minute. Brad wants to know if you could do a demo in sheer bear.
Sheer bear.
That's what he calls him.
Oh.
And he said everybody wants wants a demonstration. And he said, would he need more than a minute because bear has less hair than a sheep, we think. So Brad's a little upset because there's no demo. Okay, so you said Frisians, East Frisians?
Yes.
Is that what you said?
East Frisians are the best in the milk world.
Okay.
And there's a few other breeds, but like I said, they're from Germany and Holland area, and so they've been bred for a long time for good milk production. That's the same like with your East Frisian, or I guess now they're called East Frisian / Holstein cows, are from the same area.
Oh, okay.
And so so you get the idea. They're a milk production breed.
Okay, our time is starting to run down. We could take about 2, maybe 3 more questions. We got about 5 minutes.
I got 3.
You got 3 minutes?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah. Frisians, F-R-E-E-S.
F-R-I-E-S A-N-D, I believe.
You're not really asking him to spell, right?
Well, Sherry's
No.
asking, so.
F-R-I-E-S-A-N-D. Yeah, I believe.
Frisians. Okay.
Or
Well,
L-A-N-D.
Sherry
something.
will Google it later. We'll
Yeah,
figure it out.
Help him out, Mom.
All right. I know Mom left a long time ago.
Okay, that's
she
good.
told me that to remind you that you have to feed when you get done.
Yeah, of
when you get home. So, anyways, there we go. So, I guess we're pretty much going to turn it over.
We're going to close it up.
Yeah.
Okay. Everybody, thanks for coming. I want to thank Brett. Thanks for making the trip up
Thanks
here.
for coming up here.
Being part of the show. Really enjoyed it. It seems like you guys got a lot out of it. We're fixing to hand the pigskin off to Go for Green Living. Go over to their channel. Check them out. Don't forget to come back Saturday. Brad, is your daughter doing hers first, or is she already off on the trip? I can't remember. Was
She's
it this
on the
week?
trip, but I thought I saw something, so I don't know. I think Brad might have already left, but if he didn't, Brad, we'd love to know if she is going to do her show tomorrow or not.
If just go to the homesteadnetwork.com. You can find all the listings of the shows. Once again,
She is doing it.
she is doing it.
Awesome.
Awesome. And hers is at 5, right? Hers goes from 5 to 5:30, and then Off the Grid Kid is from
But I don't think he's doing one.
5:30 to 6.
But I think he's in New York.
But he's
Right.
opposite. But
He's up north somewhere.
and so y'all just keep checking that. We're adding people. We start the weekend off great with entertainment. Once again, thanks, Brett,
Yeah, thanks
for
for
coming
coming.
by. Go by his website. It's
www.sharingsolutions.com.
Cool.
And
if you guys want any type of
if you have any questions about raising sheep or finding a breed that fits you, just email me through there, and I'll be more than happy to work with you to find a breed that that fits exactly what you're looking for.
Cool. Awesome. All right, it's 9 o'clock.
9
Danny
o'clock.
and Krista.
Go to Off the Green.
Really? Go for Green Living.
Go for Green Living. Go to their channel. And like always, have a nice day.